What's up guys, my name is Saib, and in this episode it's just going to be a simple one. We're going to learn how to draw circles, either a full circles or a semi one or just a arcs simply. So this is simply done by using the arc method. So if I just erased everything we did in the previous chapter and we typed context and we called the arc method. Now this arc method have 6 arguments. The first two, the x and y, are the x and y coordinates for the center of the circle, in which the circle is going to be drawn around that center. And then we're going to have the radius, in which it specifies how big and small our circle is. Simply the radius is just the distance from the center to any of the circle edges. And then we have the start angle and the end angle. You should know that in the arc method, these angles has to be in radians, in which means in terms of math.pi. Now we're gonna actually see that one. And lastly, there's a boolean value for the anti-clockwise. If we want the direction of the circle path to be drawn from the start to the end in an anti-clockwise direction or a clockwise, same as the clocks. So okay, let's just simply save this one to clear everything. Okay, let's say that I want the circle to be in the middle of the canvas, the center, and then let's specify a radius of 200. And now about the angle. Now the angle should be in radians. That means we shouldn't just insert 0 degrees or 90 degrees like that. So let's say now, let's write a variable that actually has the formula for converting between degrees and radians. So you can just say radians. So radians equals degrees multiplied by math.pi over 180, in which this way we can actually convert from degrees to radians. So let's say that I want to draw from the 0 angle, in which is the beginning of that circle or the start angle, and then I want to go to 180, or let's say we're going to make a full circle, so it goes back to 360 degrees. As we all know, the full circle is just 360 degrees. So we can now call radians, or simply we all know that 360 degrees are 2 pi in radians. So yeah, now we can say false to the anti-clockwise. We're just gonna draw that in a clockwise manner. Okay, so now we can see that nothing actually showed up even if we saved, because we only specified the path for the circle, same as rect in the previous episode. So to actually show it, we have to call stroke or fill methods. So let's call stroke in order to actually see this one. Let's say stroke. Now we can see that we have the circle with a radius of 200, and the center of it is 250 for the x coordinate and 250 for the y coordinate. Now okay, let's give it a different line width in order to actually visualize this better. Okay, now we have a full circle. So what exactly happened here is that we started from 0, in which this is a start angle, and we moved clockwise, since we set false to anti-clockwise. If we want it to be drawn in an anti-clockwise, we should just insert a true boolean value. So now we went from 0 back to 360, in which showed a full circle like this. Let's say that I want to do a semicircle from 0 to 180. So I can just change this to be 180, in which simply is just pi in radians is 180 in degrees. So I can just go now and refresh that one, save, and save that one. Now you can see that we have a semicircle that goes from 0 to 180. If I said true to the anti-clockwise, you're going to see that it's going to go from the anti-clockwise direction. So it's going to be like that. Oh, I went to script, okay. Now you can see that we actually drawn that in an anti-clockwise direction. So we can, same goes to fill, just like any other shape, we can actually fill this one. We can specify a fill style to distinguish this from the stroke style. So you can just say red, okay. And simply have to call. Usually I call fill before stroke so that stroke gets all of, yeah. So yeah, let's draw a full circle in here, for instance, down there. So I can just simply call the arc again. And here let's give it a 400 and a 400 for the x and y coordinates. I'm gonna make a smaller circle now, let's just say 50. I want it to go from 0 to we're gonna make this one a full circle, so we're gonna go to from 0 to 360, in which is simply math dot by multiplied by 2, which is 2 by. And then we're gonna say, in the case of a full circle, it doesn't matter if we use actually a clockwise or an anti-clockwise, since it's gonna just be a full circle. So let's just make this one to be true. Oh, we didn't close the bath for this one, so if I just said, you see, when we didn't use begin bath, that is something that we should actually do in order to distinguish shapes from each other, because I've said in the previous episode that we should use begin bath in order to start a new shape, and so that it has its own color and line width and any properties for that shape. So we can just say here context begin bath, and then we can actually call another begin bath for that one. Okay, now you can see why this actually showed up, because we don't have that one. Okay, simply this can be solved like that. Let's change the color for this one. Let's just make it a blue one. Okay, so yeah, that is simply everything you need to know about circles and semicircles using the arc method. And let's say that I want to draw a circle that goes from 0 to 90 degrees. So again, we need to specify a new begin bath, since a new shape is about to be drawn. And now we can go to context.arc, and we can say I want this one to be drawn in here, for instance. So let's just say 50, and for the x-axis, for the x coordinates, and 400 for the y. I want this circle to be of the same size, same radius for this one, so we can just say 50. And I want it to go from 0, for instance, to 90 degrees, so I can just say 90 degrees is, in the case of a clockwise, is by over 2, so we can just say math dot by over 2. So and let's say false for the anti-clockwise, because we want just to use the clockwise one. Now we have to give it a stroke to actually see our circle. Now you see, we went from the 0 to the 90 degrees, in which in this case is a clockwise direction. So yeah, if we want to complete this one, we can go again to 180, in which is by. The same goes for 3 over 2 multiplied by to go to the 270. I know this one went out of canvas. 270, and then again, if we want to finish this circle to be full, we can go to 360, and we can apply the fill and everything to it. So that is everything you should know about circles. You just bear in mind that these angles are in radians, and you should just be okay with dealing when dealing with anti-clockwise and clockwise, just the way you specify the direction of drawing from the start to the end. And these are the x and y coordinates for the center of the circle, and this is the radius that specifies how big and small our circle is. Okay, one last thing I want to talk about that I didn't go in for the rects or any lines. If we just call the fill rect, for instance, fill rect 50 down to 50, and we give it a width of 100 and a height of 50. Now we have this rect in the middle of the canvas. Let's say that I want to, actually let's choose stroke so that it's actually more clear. So okay, let's specify a line width for this one. Okay, just give it a 10. Now let's say that I want to change how the corners look, or how these lines, these are 4 lines that are joined together. So let's say that I want to change how this corner look, or where these 2 lines are actually joined. So simply I can call something that is called line join. So I can just say line join. This takes a string. Now in our case, by default, this is actually the mitre line join. It has this mitre shape. And we can actually call round, for instance, if we want the corners to be rounded like that. Or we can just call bevel, in which is another look for how the corners might be. This is bevel. And this is not just for rects. This is actually for any joined lines. So let's say that I want to, okay, let's clear everything. Let's say that I want to move to, let's go to 150 to 150. Now let's go to context and line 2. Go to 400 for the x-axis and 400 for y. Now let's stroke so we can actually see the lines. Okay, now we can see that. Let's just again move to context.line 2. We can go back to 250 and 400 for the right. See this one. Okay, so we can now close the bath. Close bath. So we have this triangle shape. So let's say that I want to let's specify a line width so that the stroke is actually more clear. So okay, let's say that I want to change the look of how these lines are joined, or the corners of this triangle. So simply I can just call line join again, as I said, line join. This is, as I said, is the mitre corner shape. Now we can just call round, or even bevel if we want. Bevel, yeah, and we can fill it same as we used to do before. So we can just say fill style and specify a green one. Then context, and let's fill this one. Okay. Change this one to round so that we can have round corners. We can just save, and yeah. So yeah, I think that's everything you need to know when it comes to drawing graphics primitives, such as rectangles or triangles or circles or anything. And yeah, that's simply it for this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.